The Orange Zone, sponsored by Billy Whitaker Cars and Trucks and Apex Entertainment.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Orange Zone podcast. We got a little shake-up. We got a little mix-up happening on the set. No Mungro today. We were just sick of him, quite honestly. Just kidding. Ashley called out sick, and we got Rachel Culver, normally sitting behind the producer station. But we pulled her out, and here she is at the table. Hello.
I'm at the big girl desk today.
I'm at the big girl desk. Going to do your big girl pose. We've been telling her not to slouch. We're going to see if she listens.
We're going to do my best to sit properly.
Of course. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. Honestly, even down in Ashley, down Mungro, we had to come here and do this because we have not really discussed the Syracuse win over Miami yet. I don't think in full. And we wanted to do it. We're also going to talk a little bit about bowl projections. It's obviously that season, but we will be doing that more next week as well. So stick with us for that. Okay, Syracuse beat Miami, and it was honestly the sickest thing ever. 42-38 win over the number 6 team in the country. Rachel was actually there.
Yeah.
So what did you think about like the environment? Like, what did it feel like?
I feel like before
Take me in.
I feel like before we even get there, we got to talk about what happened last week on the podcast.
The prediction?
You called it.
I nailed it. I nailed it. I didn't want to go there.
Actually called it.
I know. If you guys listened last week, maybe I'll pop the clip in, but maybe I won't. So I'll just say it right now just in case. Last week on the podcast, we always do our predictions. And I don't know what compelled me to say it because everybody else decided to go against Syracuse, including you, which surprised me. But no one said that Syracuse was going to win. And I predicted that Syracuse was going to win 42-38.
My reasoning is always like, my reasoning for going against Syracuse is always because I feel like I'm bad luck, right? So like in me not going for Syracuse, I'm hoping for an alternative outcome. And that's what happened. So I'm also going to take credit for that.
Oh, the old reverse jinx.
Yeah.
100%. Listen, honestly, it's you and it's Mike McAllister. Many of you, I'm sure, if you're Syracuse people, know him. Big reverse jinx guy. He'll be like, the Eagles are horrific. They suck. And
this game's over.
Yeah. Big, this game is over guy.
Yep.
Honestly, it really was. It was iconic. It was everything we thought it was going to be. But I was here at the station because I was doing the shows. You were there.
Yeah.
How'd it feel?
So Ashley and I had got there really early. I want to say we were in there at like 1:15 or so. So we had the experience of being able to like watch the crowd grow. And there was times like looking around that we're like, we're not so sure. We feel a little bit nervous. Like we hope more people show out. But it ended up being a great crowd. I was so taken aback to just see like the full Carrier Dome wave in such perfect execution.
The freaking wave, man.
The wave was an important moment.
The wave was unforgettable.
Yeah.
Like there were a few things that stuck out to me, but if you guys were there, you certainly knew it. If you were watching it on TV, they showed it.
Yeah.
Like just watching it on TV, I could tell that the dome felt different. Something exciting was happening in that atmosphere because it looked super crowded. So honestly, props to everybody who did show up because we did talk about that last week. Like it's a Thanksgiving weekend game. Are people going to come through? And they completely did.
That 3:30 window is so much better than the noon game. You know, I think people that you can buy into it more as your whole afternoon. And it's just, Syracuse fans absolutely showed up. And I will say there was a lot of Miami fans too. So I feel like that just kind of amped them up even a little bit more to have them like amongst them.
I'll tell you what, they were showing them on the broadcast, man. There was this one woman who like, I don't know why they kept coming back to her. I have to assume that it was somebody's parent. I was kind of watching in and out, but they kept going back to her and she was here with it. And honestly, it was so satisfying.
She was not feeling great.
she was actually feeling badly.
She had no peace.
No, she did not. And I see why. Syracuse has now won 9 games for the first time since 2018. They are ranked after that win. They're number 23 in the top 25 AP poll. Miami had also defeated Syracuse 6 times before this. It was insane. And also, obviously, Fran Brown, even though I'm sure he'd say he cares about this the least, but he is now just the second head coach in the modern era to record 9 regular season wins in his first year at the helm, which is pretty insane. Pretty insane. Any of those, when you hear those bullet points, stick out to you as like, wow, we're heading in a good direction?
I mean, they're all that. They all give me that. But I think the big one is, I think just seeing a number by Syracuse, like, is like taking so much weight off of so many fans' shoulders. We all came in with such high expectations with all that we saw Fran doing in the off season leading up to this with the recruiting and the transfer portal and all of this, and like this is just kind of the cherry on top of like all of the work that we saw building throughout the season. So I think ending it where we've been craving to be is the perfect storyline for the season.
Like, it was freaking storybook. I don't know how else to say it. I felt like going into it, I thought win or lose, they've had a good season. They've proved what they needed to prove. But they won, and I was like, this was a great season.
Yeah.
This was a defining, characterizing win. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts that you will see the impact of this win, not only into next season, but even carrying over and propelling into the seasons beyond that. That's actually how significant I believe it to be.
And I think it's so interesting, like us like being in the like sphere of it all the time. Like going on social media afterwards and scrolling through everything and like seeing all of the people that we follow and that cover Syracuse sports, like obviously going crazy about it. But then you run across like a Bleacher Report and like the big national outlets that are all like, whoa, this just happened. This is Fran Brown. Look at his tongue's out on camera in front of the nation, you know. So
winners get washed. Put that in the thumbnail.
So it's just like seeing that and seeing like the love come from outside the community. I think that speaks volumes too.
Preach. Honestly, I think that makes a big difference. I think, as people who cover Syracuse, anyone in the Syracuse region who was watching throughout the whole season knew that it was a possibility that they were going to upset Miami. I actually think even a lot of Miami fans knew that Syracuse was the sleeper team. But from even weeks ago, Fran Brown said, we're going to put the Block S back on the map. Like, that was his main goal. Winning a game like Miami does that, because you're right. Even guys like Kirk Herbstreit are looking at Kyle McCord and looking at Syracuse. And once you're kind of in that national realm, now you're going to continue to be talked about. And that's why, just to say it, and we'll get into it, I'm not done necessarily reminiscing on Miami yet, but now this bowl game has some serious implications, because to me, it's obviously you're not competing for a national championship, right? But to me, there's recruiting implications. There's the possibility that you could end the season with 10 wins and have that number next to you. It's a lot to get into, but there are exciting things that could happen as a result of this bowl game, man.
Not to mention some of the storylines that could come out of it with the matchups and all that. Yeah, it'll be exciting.
It will be. All right, just to recap a couple things with Miami that I thought were important. Kyle McCord, have to talk about him. I feel like we do this every freaking game, but how can you not? He threw for 380 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Orange. But more importantly, he became the first Syracuse quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards in a season. And he also broke the previous Cuse single season mark of 26 touchdowns from Ryan Nassib. Like, this is a quarterback people are going to remember.
I mean, it is every time we sit down to do one of these podcasts that there's like 3 new things that we have to say. He broke this record and this record, and it's just I think back to the conversations that we had earlier, like before the season actually started, and like they were all hypotheticals, of course, but like I remember one where it was like, do you think Kyle McCord's jersey could hang in the rafters after this year? And I'm like, now? Like, that's an interesting conversation to, like, reevaluate.
No, that's actually a really interesting question, because it is such a weird feeling when somebody is amazing and great, but they're only here for 1 year. But in this particular instance, I guess to answer your question, I would say I almost feel like that doesn't matter. Like, his impact was felt in such a short period of time that, yeah, I think people are going to remember the name Kyle McCord. Obviously also because he was paired with Fran Brown in his first year.
Yeah.
But I thought it was pretty impressive. Beyond that, you obviously had LaQuinn Allen. He finished with 143 yards from scrimmage for Syracuse. Devin Grant. Devin Grant. Can we take a beat?
That moment. Oh, my God.
Little scoop and score?
You could, like, feel the dome just fall in love with him in that
Really?
moment. No, I'm like, it was that after that play, I would dare to say that it might have been the loudest all game, aside from like when the clock actually ran out and everybody rushed the field. Like, people were so excited about that play.
I've been saying this for years. I feel like there's nothing that fires the dome up more than a defensive play. That is what people want to say.
The defense showed up like across the board this game.
And that's something that we don't always talk about, but I think today we should. Like, it's hard because this offense is so incredible. I was going to say firepower, so it's weird that you said that.
Fiery.
That like they end up being the headliner in every instance, and I think that this time was no different. That being said, they don't win this game without Syracuse's defense making one big pivotal stop. Like it really felt like it was just going to be touchdown for touchdown until the clock ran out.
When you saw that field goal unit come out, like that felt good because it had been such a shootout the whole game. Obviously, you have two high-powered quarterbacks, both with like NFL potential, and just to see like them get forced off the field and have to settle for that field goal in that moment.
When did you know Syracuse was going to win the game?
Devin Grant touchdown.
See, for me, yeah, I mean, that was electric. But honest to God, when I saw that field goal unit coming out, and I'd be curious if there are any Miami fans listening, how you felt about that, because I couldn't effing believe it.
Yeah.
I was literally shocked that they wouldn't, and I understand the situation, and I get that it was a risk. But if you have Cam Ward as your quarterback, and you've been going touchdown for touchdown the whole game, I was shocked with the amount of time that was left that was the time where they decided, yeah, we're going to kick a field goal. Like, I knew they weren't going to be able to come back from that.
Maybe just the spell of the dome came over them in that moment, and they were like, let's put points on the board.
They went for the points, man.
They went for the points.
They sold out. And Syracuse won as a result. Also, Trevor Pena, 6 catches for 128 yards and a touchdown. That drive also, just to say it, I mean, that was like emotional. Like,
no, I mean, that was obviously earlier on in the game. That's when they were still kind of fighting out of a hole completely. But it was such a straight, because everybody was so excited, and then the dome, the lights go off in the dome, and everybody's still so excited. Then the lights come back on. It was like we were brought back to reality. We're like, wait, what happened? No, literally, even in the press box, I was looking around, and everybody was also looking around. Like, what was the call there? Nobody really understood. It was such a late flag. It was really bizarre. I don't know.
I'm going to leave all this as a conversation for another day, but I am just going to say it just to say it. The Dome needs to stop turning off the lights when a touchdown is scored. It's really effing annoying.
I get it for, the atmosphere, but, when I'm holding a camera and the lights go off and I'm just expected to, my settings are just out the door at that point.
It's brutal.
Nothing's going to uphold the dome lights going off.
No,
it's so
no,
bad.
it's horrific. And I'm curious, maybe that's just our question of the day, for Syracuse fans. Do you like it when?
Yeah, does it really make that much of a difference to your game day experience?
If
just
not,
a question.
we should ditch it. It's not working, and it's okay to just admit it was a bad idea. At least in my opinion. Anyway, all in all, this is a team that was down 21 points. It was the largest comeback in history, and it was the perfect cherry on top to the end of a Fran Brown beginning.
Kyle McCord said it best at his press conference. He wasn't saying it in reference that I'm going to say it, but everything comes full circle.
Dude, he said it, and if y'all are just tuned into college football across the country, you know why. Obviously, he was formerly at Ohio State. Michigan beat Ohio State, which is crazy. Actually, in my opinion, crazier than the Syracuse upset. That was insane.
Even if you just take what happened after the game ended, that was just a lot.
Well, yeah, that too, actually.
And then, my favorite video to come out of the day was, Ryan Day just looking confused on the sidelines. He was like, what happened?
Yeah, there was a lot there. I know Ohio State fans are really upset. But I agree that everything came full circle. And I never felt like the things that were going on at Ohio State were Kyle McCord's fault. Yeah. So just to say it, I'm happy that he got his moment to shine because he's also a really good person and he was a good fit here.
And Dave Portnoy was one of the guys that was really outspoken on that same point on social media. So
I saw it. He's starting to get national attention, man.
I know.
That's how it should be. All right, looking ahead, just so everybody knows what's up and coming next. I can't believe that the regular season is over, but it is. So now we're looking at bowl projections. This is not going to be no pinstripe bowl, y'all. We are going somewhere exciting. I think it's going to be somewhere potentially warm and further away, and most importantly, not in New York. There are a million different projections across the board about where they could end up. We've seen Gator Bowl, we've seen Pop-Tart Bowl, we've seen Holiday Bowl. Those first two I mentioned, Gator Bowl and Pop-Tarts Bowl, worth noting that at some point throughout the season, there were representatives seen from both of those bowls at Syracuse's games. So you start to see what the conversation could be like. Gator and Pop-Tart Bowl both played in Florida. Holiday Bowl played in California. I am very interested to see what happens here and who Syracuse gets paired with. This is just my thought, but honestly, to me, it is a little bit less about which bowl they go to and a little more about the opponent who they play.
Absolutely.
And I have something I'd like to share at this time.
Please, the floor is yours.
I think that a really cool matchup, just since I've been on a heater lately, I may as well just predict one more thing. Just go out on a high note.
Guys, she's getting power hungry. We're losing her.
Literally, I need to relax. But I think that if Syracuse played a bowl game against Colorado and Deion Sanders, it may be the most electric matchup that a bowl game has seen in quite some time. Deion Sanders is the kind of guy who in some ways reminds me of a Fran Brown. And I'll tell you the ways they remind me of one another. Like at the podium, they are two guys who are like bombastic and giving you these hysterical sound bites and really interesting things. There's no coach speak at all. There's very interesting players in the lineups that people care about. There is NFL talent on both sides. This is just my pitch, but all I'm saying is if I was somebody personally who was trying to make some money and trying to have people tune in, that's a matchup I'd want to see. Last but not least, Deion Sanders said earlier in the week that all of his players are going to play. He said, and I like the fact that he said that straight up in the beginning. He's like, no, all the starters who you've seen the whole year are going to be out there. We're going to finish the year with the way we started it. And honestly, I know we don't know the answer to this yet, but I kind of feel like Fran Brown is going to feel the same way. I do think you see Kyle McCord playing in this bowl game. I really do.
I agree with you. I just feel like after the season that they've had together, Fran and Kyle, I just feel like while there might be like perspectives in Kyle's ear telling him the alternatives and like being a little bit more safe, I do think he cares about this community and how this season ends, and I think the brotherhood that you've heard him speak of all year really rings true, and here's to hoping that we get to see him in orange one more time, but I can't imagine and the alternative. I really can't.
I don't think it's going to happen. And not to mention, like, yes, I understand that the risk of injury is always there, but put that aside for a minute and put even his love for the community aside. If he wants to be in the NFL, like, bro needs reps.
Yeah.
I think he should be out there.
On the national scale as many times as you can. And especially if you're playing a team like the Colorados, like against Deion Sanders, that might very well break the internet, like. And
people will see it.
Yes.
They'll notice. And I know that some bowls are like that too. Like I remember, all I can remember last year, like literally, if you tell me, think of your first memory from.
I know what you're gonna say.
Really? What am I gonna say?
No, you say it.
I was gonna say if you told me like think of your favorite memory from last year's bowl season. Do you have a word in your head? Can we just try and say it at the same time, just see what happens?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Pop-Tart. Yeah. It was so funny.
Yeah. No, I knew exactly where you were going with that.
And I think a lot of people feel that way. But like those kinds of moments, it does make me think like that really legitimately turns into exposure.
Yeah. And I don't remember who brought up the point earlier in the week, but basically with the media attention that Fran Brown has gotten on certain things that he said, winners get washed. Whatever. The meme of like the two of them paired together, the Pop-Tart Bowl and everything that's come out of Fran Brown's mouth, like it just makes sense. It kind of just makes sense.
Sometimes you just need to put things together that work. Peanut butter, jelly. We did the damn thing.
Fran
it
Brown,
was awesome.
Pop-Tart.
Anyway, last but not least, just to say it, we will know which bowl they're going to be in on Sunday. Sunday that will come out and we'll know. So earlier I said there's going to be more bowl projection episodes. Newsflash, that's actually not true. But once we find out which bowl they'll be in, we will definitely be talking about it, and we will have Munro back on for at least 1 or 2 more episodes just to be able to discuss what's coming next.
He'll have opinions and thoughts and all of those lovely things.
Worst part about him not being here today is that I didn't get to rub my prediction in his face because for once in my life, he can't take credit.
No.
And I really look forward to that day whenever it comes. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Really appreciate it. As always, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, anywhere where you get your podcast. The handle is all the same, at the Orange Zone Podcast. Other than that, we will plan to see you back here next week when we know where Syracuse is headed. And by the grace of God, we will be sent there as well. See you later. Talk next week.